Good evening, one and all. We're going to be doing some more modeling tonight. And hopefully some animation. We will see. Anyway, it is about an hour later than I was planning to get started, but yeah. We will proceed, though, and see how far we get. There's a couple of things I would like to bring up later on in the stream. And not sure about the subject we'll go with for tonight. I'll try and keep it a little silent. But of course, as many of you know, I usually can't help but bring up some deep subjects. And I will say, as usual, I have a couple of deep thoughts that are in the back of my mind that keep nagging at me. And when I say that, it's kind of a reminder. Now, if there's anybody who ends up being new or relatively new, has not heard this yet, we are in a world that really likes to avoid tough subjects. And I realized this when I started to realize that I couldn't raise certain questions or thoughts without angering somebody. And it's not that I'm trying to anger people necessarily, but it is something where I notice that if there's something that really matters and you can't bring it up, well, it starts to become taboo, and it starts to become detrimental to people. That's why we talk about anything and everything around here. And we've talked about some subjects that have made people very uncomfortable, and I have heard that before. Not as much as I would have thought, though, which has been very nice, and I've been grateful for the willing ears that have heard them and not jumped to conclusions. But there have been some people in the past that have jumped to conclusions, and I try not to say them with any sort of malice, but you can't avoid that with some things. In terms of, like, you know, people believe in that. Just a second here. Something's amiss. Aha, I did have the wrong file open. Good thing I saw that before I started into that. All right. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, so I have now an overlay in order to get the proper topology, because I was having a few too many problems, and I realized, you know, might as well just utilize the tools that are out there, the reference guides, and then, you know, alter it from there. You know, there was a person who used to watch these streams years ago. Actually, was it years ago or was it months ago? I don't remember. And there was a moment where they said something that I knew very much what they were referring to. And it was not good. It was one of the things that, while I can talk about it, it was something where I realized that it had to be stopped right then and there. It could not go down that path. And the reason why is because there are some things where a tough subject is necessary. There's some where it starts to become more like a temptation for people. And what the person was trying to do ended up crossing that line. I said we talk about anything and everything, but I do not support anything and everything. I support truth first and foremost. And when someone comes along and starts giving a vice and saying the vice is somehow good, that's where I cannot tolerate that. And I've had to be fairly silent about that in the past, because there were people that were trying to kind of waiting in the wings for me to say something. And it just has to happen once or twice before you're like, I don't know if this is really beneficial to the discussion. I've learned over the years, though, that if you don't intend for the subject to be sensitive and, off-putting, you can't necessarily stop other people from interpreting it that way. Now, I try and speak about this stuff in as gentle of terms as possible in order to prevent misunderstandings. Just a second. Started having that static again, which I found out is you have to jiggle this down here to get it to stop. But I did notice, though, that over the years, a lot of people that used to throw a fit just decided not to be around. And that way, we kind of solved a lot of the problems. But it doesn't mean that it was necessarily gone. There's been a lot of people who will take issue and make it very, very plain that they take issue. But I have noticed that the people that would just kind of start screaming and deny any sort of interaction, those people have not really been around in recent years. And I gotta say, I am actually very glad about that. It makes it a lot easier to explore those tough subjects, with the exception of the problems that, like I said earlier, can appear. And some of those issues tend to revolve around the alphabet communities. Now, I don't bring that one up a whole lot, and I'm not necessarily going to be speaking about it a whole lot tonight. Not necessarily that I can't, but it's more like that's kind of not the point of the stream for tonight. But it is something where I have noticed a lot of the problems revolved around people of that sort of a background. And, if that happens, it's not a bad thing that it's happening. It's actually a sign that you're doing something that's right. And that's something where some people, they don't realize that. And so they get upset and then they lash out for them to try and show somehow that they care. But, it's one of the reasons why it's been a little difficult in the past for some people, including myself, to talk about that anything and everything, because you will get people that are passionate. And I welcome that people can be passionate about a subject as long as they can speak about it. It's when you can't speak about it that it becomes a lot more difficult to have a conversation. Then it just becomes a blatant shouting match. And I have been a part of many of those, and it doesn't really change anybody's opinion. But so there was something I saw the other day. Hey, greetings there, Jersey. There's something I saw a few days ago, and it was a discussion that was taking place in which somebody was very heated, and understandably so. They were very heated about a subject, and there was very little consoling them. They were dealing with a lot, and it became very difficult, though, for anybody to have that positive sort of discussion. And I remember seeing this interview and thinking, they've not proven anything to anybody. And it was because they let tempers control the dialogue rather than reason. It's amazing how much calm words can do to help, really, to solve a lot of those angers. I talked with somebody that I used to, on a subject that I used to get very passionate about. I got angry when I heard it. And I thought, obviously, this is a right thing to get angry about. And then I realized we basically never convinced the other person. It was over. Once the argument started, you knew that you were going to end up nowhere. I wouldn't be convinced and he wouldn't be convinced. And, is that of any benefit if you end up in a shouting match? No. At which point you realize that you're just so very opposite that it's never really going to change anything. Hello and good night, says Bastion. Hope the modeling goes well. Much appreciated there, Bastion. Rest well, and hope you are having a pleasant end of summer. That's weird to think about, actually. End of summer. It is. I noticed that with the changing temperatures. It is quite cool right now. And it did take me a little bit by surprise to look at the calendar and realize how late in the year it is. Unfortunate. I was kind of hoping things would go on a little bit longer, but it wasn't meant to be. Got a late start to the summer and an early end to it. Did you opt out of the new Twitch AI thingy? Oh, great. They got a new AI thingy? Ugh. I need to get rid of that. Oh, actually, wait a minute. I did see something about that. Let me do that right now, actually, while I'm thinking about it. Let's see here. How do we find this? Isn't it funny how they will change things like that? And then they just assume that you want to opt into it. No. They sure corrupt people. On the bottom, you can scroll down. Security. Aha, security and privacy. Aha. Yeah, get rid of that. Get out of here, you Twitch nonsense AI scraper. Beat it. Anyway, thanks for the reminder there, Jersey. Just toggled that. It looks like I am now in the clear, safe from those evil AI overlords. How go your projects? You know, what I was mentioning about earlier, about how it becomes difficult to have a discussion with if one is easily given over to anger. There's one thing that really has been bothering me, and it has to do with a discussion I had with a friend a couple years ago. It was a painful discussion, painful because we both were passionate about the subject, but we had two very different ways in which we were trying to live out what it was that we were seeing. And he had a very distinct approach to it and raised a lot of points that, while I didn't agree with, I could understand how he came to those conclusions. But there was one thing that made it impossible to carry on the discussions at that point. It was ideology. It was theology. It was philosophy. And I realized that we were so very different. There was never going to be a common ground. Anger took over the discussion. And before long, we ended up in a position where nobody's going to talk to each other again. There is no continuing on the conversation. And I grieve that, honestly, because I still think he was in the wrong. But I didn't want him to necessarily think that somehow his opinion didn't have any worth. And unfortunately, because of how society goes, I think that maybe he thought that's what it was that I was referring to. Anyway, it destroyed the ability to have any sort of friendship, any sort of conversation, and so thus, it just ends. There's no chance for a redemption. No chance for correction. And one of the most important things that we can do in this life is to admit when we are wrong. You can't really do that if you have no contact. Now, I don't think necessarily that I was on the wrong with our discussion, nor did I really expect him to come back and say, oh yeah, you were right. Although I wish it would happen, but it's not necessarily guaranteed that that's going to be what happens. But it does prevent us from having the ability to heal, to be able to press on. And that part is gone. I'm almost done with the mesh of the new model. I'm just creating a few more items so I can put them on the final texture thingy. I don't know what it's called, and oh yeah, that is I think UV map is what you're talking about, or you're talking about the shader, and the sorry. So I can move it on to Substance Painter. Yep, indeed. Still have not worked with Substance Painter. I know I'm missing out or something like that. It's just one tool too many to get familiar with. All right, I'm liking how this is turning out now. to subdivide that. I just want to leave it as is. And the top is subdivided. Yeah, let's do that. I can share the very rough presentation of it. I'm really bad at presenting stuff, so I'll have to spend a day to figure something out. Ah, indeed. It's learning how to present stuff is indeed a challenge. It doesn't come naturally for a lot of people. It didn't really come naturally for me for a long time, and now I can present, although I'd still think that in my mind I struggle with it a bit. At least in the preparation phase of things. Oh yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to have this loop around. Let's see what sort of connection is that. It's oh golly. Let me look at the reference here. Actually, wait a minute. I already have some of this here, so let me actually get rid of these here. So now, if I get rid of these, loops around the knuckles. And I have mine a little bit tighter because of the design that I chose, but what I need to do is I need to subdivide this right here. Ah, art. Full scale. Ooh. That's pretty good detail there. Ooh. Good topology. Very nice. That is indeed quite the challenge to try and overcome, is good topology, as you've been seeing with me fighting with this. Great Scott, that's actually a pretty good job doing your presentation. Throwing the cat, giving the skunk eye there. Wow. Yep. Engons. To be continued. Nicely done. Copyright free jazz. Oh, I had my volume too low to even notice that there. I'll probably post the real thing on Saturday as I'm waiting for my Tumblr account to get undeleted. Ooh. I hope it's a success. Well done. Actually, I wonder. So I do have a tighter, but maybe I should have it come out like this. See how it works with the pinky before we do to the others. Right now, what do they do for this one here? Those ones get attached moving forward. Oh, I see where I went wrong with this. It's good to have this reference guide here because there's a lot of things I wish I could go back and redo. It doesn't have to be exactly like this because that would be the opposite of what I'm trying to go for, but the knuckles is what I need to try and make happen. We have a pull of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I don't know if this one counts. Let's see. But 6 coming from there. And here we have a pull of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's one missing. 1 in, 1 over, 1 forward. 1. That's not really in. Oh, that's because it goes there. So that's what this one kind of counts as. I hit edit and remove the email, only email there, and it removes the account. By the way, I plan for this model to be universal for future animations. Yes, indeed. One model that can be many characters. Smart thinking. Smart thinking. Only thing I'm worried about, though, is the skeleton itself, as the feminine and masculine characters have different bone placement, like for hips, shoulders. Indeed. I don't know how it will go with more serious changes. I prefer to have one skeleton for both, but we will see. Indeed. We've been finding some good success, so I'm sure that things will turn out pretty well. I used the same hand reference for the rabbit. It was awesome, so I was super paranoid about those 5 poles near the wrist, and I edited the whole thing. Indeed. You know, I don't think I want this structure here. I think it was good, actually, the way that it was. First, I'm going to save it before moving forward, because I'm going to get rid of that and find a different solution for this, because it gets a few too many polygons. And I do like how this structure is kind of turning out. Just need to figure out what to do with those extra parts. Get rid of these. That kind of holds the same shape for the most part. Then I can connect it like this. A little bit better. Uh-oh. Just shared something here. Why does Alaska have a beef with Texas? Don't get worked up over it, but I'm loving this map. Oh, no. Least favorite state, no. Least favorite state is actually California. Texas is like the one we like to make fun of because, you know, such a tiny little state. But no, it's California we'd take issue with. I'm surprised Illinois wasn't Wisconsin. What the heck? Why did they have a beef with Florida? That is kind of interesting. Wisconsin doesn't like Illinois. Goofy. Had to share it with you. I saw the post calling out the Alaska bit. Yes. Oh, golly. Thanks for the post there, Jess. It's clever. Yeah, those Californians, though, those are the ones that are the crazy people. Got to beware of them hippies. Anyway, how you doing tonight, Jess? How do I do this poll right here? Straighten that one out. Then so the line goes up around like that. Nope, it should go straight on up. Okay, so I got that wrong here. So let's merge these two at the center. And then this is one of the things that actually I really do enjoy doing this part of trying to figure out this stuff, but I find that this stuff still continues to confuse me, despite how often I've done this. Although it has been a long while, so it's not like I do this all the time. I have definitely become rusty over the recent years. I need a try right here. Sorry, a penta. So let's do this. And then, actually, wait a minute. This is how we get a combination. It's this one, maybe. Why am I forgetting? I'm good. We've had thunderstorms this week. A lot of my area got lost power for hours on Tuesday. Jewel and Kroger had lost power too, but so everyone was at Walmart because we hadn't lost power. Ah, Walmart coming to the rescue. Very nice. It's also good that you got that rain because if I remember right, you guys were still dealing with smoke, if I recall correctly. Did that clear up any of the smoke in the area? Or had it already been resolved at that point? Hey, I got that spot to work. Dang, I don't usually do that very well. So let's copy that over and let's see here. How do I do this? -1. And move that on there. Let's just patch it like this. Now, where do I go up to on this one? Okay, this one goes, just delete those ones around there. So going up to the ridge, right along there. Just get rid of those. Smoke isn't bad down here, but Oregon, Washington area had a fire now, and it's having smoke issues that I've heard. Yes, I actually know someone from that greater area, and they are indeed struggling with that. I just didn't know if it had reached you guys over there. Right, these ones go forward and connect to that row. So we need to do this right here. Do you like read topology or texturing more? I gotta say read topology is therapeutic in many ways. But in terms of which one I excel at more, I think it might be texturing. Because I know some people that are really good at this, and I'm kind of mediocre at all of those things. I am decent at when it comes to rigging, though. So I think I would actually prefer rigging over all of them. Kind of surrendered on a lot of the modeling stuff because it kind of became irrelevant in many things that I was doing. And it's not that I don't like doing it. I actually really like doing all of it. It's just that there's not the demand that there used to be. You'd have to cross the Rockies and the plains first. Ah, yes, indeed. Rigging. Wow, I hate weight painting. Weight painting is not very fun. I will admit that. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, though. And hopefully, when we're at the portion of rigging this, I'll get a chance to really, hopefully, give some ideas about how you can rig stuff like that. Oh, well, correction, like this. Oh, did you see the video out of D23 where they got the Disney princesses together to sing When You Wish Upon a Star? I did not see that. I won't be able to play it on stream, but you should definitely link it so that I can see that afterwards. I am down deep. I'm still a very big Disney fan. And doesn't mean that I don't have my issues with the company, but it does mean it is something where I still get nostalgic for it. And definitely had some of that over the last couple of years. Wait a minute. What's going on here? All right, so it comes up from here. 1, 2, 3, and then we go to right behind the knuckle. This goes 1, 2, right behind the knuckle. Oh, I connected it to the wrong vertex, I think. No, that's the correct one. Okay, time to pull up another window. I'll share it to Discord. Brandy started it, made a lot of people emotional. She got overlooked as a Disney princess, which is unfair. Her Cinderella movie was very popular. Or would you prefer an Insta DM? Either way works. The Discord one makes it so that if other people want to see it, then of course they can. Why is this one not making sense to me? Oh, that's why. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. It's because I connected the knuckles differently. This is why we, hope the reference. Okay. Merge at last. Nope, that's not how it does. Go here to here. Let's just connect that for the time being. And then it's like this. Goes up and over. Now this one here, this one is a little perplexing. If I connect this over to there, I had that one mixed up there. Connect. Correction. Let's just disconnect this and try this again. You know, when I was at one of the, I think it was the second to last time I was at Disney. Things were not going so well, and I was in the process of trying to figure out what the future was going to hold. I was not liking where things were going, and I was at the Disney parks with the YouTubers, and we were starting to leave, and there was a statement that was given that was a bit insulting, a little hard-hitting. Didn't have any sort of grace behind it. Didn't have any reason to be said other than just to try and spite. And I couldn't figure out why. Why was it said in that way? But there I was on the boat that was leaving the Disney parks, and I was with it was a boat ride over to the parking lot, and the cast member did not know how to run a boat. She was not very good at it. It was embarrassing just how unsafe that boat felt. But there was one thing she did that was very helpful. She sang. It was one of the few times where somebody had done a public song like that with no music and held the notes very, very well. And it was memorable because it was a moment of stress relief that had become quite overwhelming over the past few hours. And to hear that was very therapeutic. She took somebody who was having a very hard time and turned it around just with her voice. And there wasn't any sort of, glamorous backup music for it. It was just her being peaceful, being melodious. And it was very inspiring. And a lot of people don't realize the power something like that has. And a lot of it was nostalgia. A lot of the reason why it stood out to me was nostalgia. But second off, it was the fact that somebody actually cared about, that memory in that sense, the part of Disney that represented. And it was something that just helped you to disconnect from the troubles of the world and refocus. Don't know who she was. But the thing is that sort of stuff is done by many people in this world. And you don't really realize who you're going to impact and how long that impact will last. It's the FBI. Oh wait, wrong sound effect. I'm doing well. How about yourself? What have you been up to? By the way, that was the fish was scared of you. Thanks for the advice about the Discord. I think that come Saturday, I'm going to try and implement that. So expect a new feature, folks. Something that will help out quite a bit. And if I have problems getting it set up, I'll be sure to reach out to you, FBI. Text me if you need help with that. Indeed. Yeah, that looks much better. Saturday, it's tomorrow. Well, it's not for me. Remember, I'm a day behind you. So technically, it's still Thursday for me. Tomorrow is Friday. Isn't it the wonder of being on a globe and being able to communicate halfway around the world? Around 12 hours, yeah, but the times, the international dateline. I saw a video with the Legends Parade. It had a bunch of voices of characters and even a bunch of Imagineers. Ooh. I wish I could have seen something like that. That would have been very nice. Maybe one day I will, but not yet. Right, that does connect. Second guessing myself a lot right now. Funnies was Dadman's reaction for his first New Year's stream needing to be more than 24 hours. Yes, that was something that would have helped if he had looked at a map of the of the time zones. Not a lot of people know about that. I myself wasn't even familiar with just how many there were. I knew there was more than what I remembered hearing about in like my geography class. But there's way more than I was expecting. It's 1:30 hour. It's 13:30 hours ahead. You're living in the future. That's a sound effect I need. I need Doc saying, "Great Scott." Lifetime subscription is cheap. I like dubbing AI voice changer. It's more natural. Wait a minute. Oh, more natural, yeah. Greetings, Handel Rudy, or is it Handel Erudai? It wouldn't be the Erudai. Must be a different Erudai. Anyway, love this video. Well, much appreciated. Hopefully you find something of merit around here. WAI voice changer app. Jeff is anti-AI. Yes. Very anti-AI. So.
Very anti-AI.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I am an AI. I'm anti-AI in many ways. Although I do have to say, there's one area that I am starting to soften on that. No, it's not that I necessarily want AI to succeed. It's more like I understand that now a lot of people do use it, and I can't really condemn them for wanting to use it. They feel like they don't have many options. Doesn't mean that I myself want to use it. I want to try and avoid using it like the plague. But alas, even I have been put into a position where now I'm starting to have to dabble in it. Doesn't mean that I want to. And I'm definitely going to try and find ways to avoid it as much as I can in order to maintain the art form as best as I can. Even a small family business like Gemini, the small family business. Just a second. Oh, come on. What a time for that not to work. Oh, well, moments passed. What happened to my canned laughter? Oh, well, we'll just go with this instead. Just for the sake of it.
What are you doing?
By the way, I found out that if I had gone with a subscription, I would have actually, for the sounds, I actually would have paid quite a bit of money by now. And instead, I just paid for it with hours and hours of pointless programming. But hey, I now don't have to worry about ever having to pay an extra fee for that. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much a perpetual license. $50. Ugh. $50. That's not $50 I would want to spend. Okay, now we got the bands across the hand. Man, that was way more effort than I wanted it to be. We'll readjust some of those points around here momentarily. Just wanted to get the general topology set up. And we're going to be going into the rigging here shortly. I just want to refine this, and then we'll correct it to what the skin was doing underneath. So right now I still have my guides that I can use, and I'll be pulling those up here again in a moment. You can do any celebrity voice, including Donald Trump. No, okay, I can't do his voice. At least this late at night. I can do it better when it's the middle of the day, and I'm kind of like hyped up. But at least in the late evening like this, it's a little bit harder to try and do. But yeah, expect this was going to be a tough one. You could say, expect that those tools are probably going to start disappearing. And I don't say that necessarily like, ooh, it's going to be disappearing. The man's going to shut it down. No, but there is a very real concern about those things being out. And I think we're like reaching a point of where I think society-wise, a lot of people are probably going to start being a lot more careful. So just be forewarned, those tools could very well disappear within the next couple of years. And if it doesn't, then I will stand corrected. But I got a pretty strong gut feeling about this one. Hey, that worked out almost perfectly. I mean, it needs a little bit more refining here, but it's still, that went actually far smoother than I thought it would be. Elon Musk. I'm just imagining Elon Mush as in like he's a pile of potatoes. Trying to remember, since you have the Halo noise and the Silverado stuff, you like that game, right? I do indeed like the game. I won't say it's my favorite game in the world, but it is one that I definitely have a lot of fun memories about because, you know, I had a lot of games at college that we would do. And, well, to abandon it completely would kind of cut out a lot of great past memories. And one of the memories I have is actually, it was the very first time that I tried role-playing. And I did it with my brother and a friend of ours from college. And the conversations got pretty funny. And I recorded a bit of it. You will never hear it, though, because the quality was so bad. I did not have a very good recording setup. And so when I went back to listen to the recordings later on, it was almost impossible to hear what was being said. So even though there were some hilarious moments, I could never use it. Real shame. If you do the daily task thing, you can claim one voice for free in 5 to 7 days. Tasks just take like 15 minutes. Tasks are like use the voice changer for a few minutes. That's all. Most intriguing. Yeah, the AI voice thing is definitely a popular thing with a lot of channels right now. There was someone who was using AI voices for the things that we were doing around here. That, like, when we would raid, they would use an AI voice to scrape the site, to scrape the channel, and then it would give a story. And it seems to be pretty commonplace now when you do raids. Not a big fan of it myself, but it is interesting to see just how common that thing is. Saw a video someone created a warthog replica from Halo Reach. Oh. Well, there's that thing. Yeah, I'll be sure to check that one later on. Just because, you know, the music in the background, which I already got in trouble for recently because YouTube heard it and they lashed out. Oh, that's great. Oh, I love that. Built a functional replica of a warthog. That is a very well done version. I like that. I like it way much. Not just a voice changer, but it does sound effects too. Ah, most intriguing. The now the sound effects is definitely something one can get behind. Of course, I also have my wonderful collection of very useful and always relevant sound effects to choose from.
Demon llama!
Demon llama? Where?
That's an old sound effect. Oh, look, it's going to play a second time. That's because it's a bugged system. And that happens every now and again. But anyway, my soundboard is completely customizable because I programmed it, which, of course, comes with its own quirks as a result of that. But it doesn't do AI voices. I do wish, though, that I'm not liking how this is turning out here. I do wish, though, that a lot of the tools that are currently out there would take into account some of the concerns about the industry as a whole. And I am seeing some places that are starting to realize that they need to change their rhetoric, and that is promising. But we're not there yet. So I'm curious about how these tools are going to change as the anti-AI sentiments start to grow even bigger, which they are growing pretty fast. I'm surprised at just the sheer speed at which the tone has changed. Up until recently, it was like people had opinions about it. It didn't really matter to them all that much, really. And then suddenly they saw how the companies behaved in their neighborhoods and in their communities. And they're like, wait a minute, why do we want these people around here? And it has a lot of those AI companies a little surprised, thankfully. Okay. You keep making ungons, yes indeed. I keep making that mistake. Alright, so we have a quad here. This one's good. This one's not really good because it breaks this loop. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this and this. And now let's connect it differently. Quad, quad, and now we have one try right there. So let's try and connect it like this for the time being. Now we have two tries. I'm trying too hard. I feel like there's a way to connect this just ever so slightly differently. I mean, that solves the problem technically, but that doesn't really solve the flow. Actually, wait a minute. No, it does. A little bit. Almost. Then we're left with this one, which can technically be split. But the question is it worthwhile splitting? Yep, the Control Alt Q. Yep, I was I was focused on trying to mirror stuff, and sometimes you get stuck in the one window, and then you kind of forget. There we go. So there's that. But right now we're just kind of focusing on this little area right here, which, golly. I think I'm probably just going to call this one. Well, no, I'm not. This is like the last piece of this puzzle here. So I got to try and fix this one, which would require me to attach it where? So in order to split this, I could try this technique. This to go around. Basically using a drawing technique I used to use back in the day. Whether or not this actually works is up for debate, but that's one of the reasons why a lot of this is just kind of tinkering. Trying to figure out how to this function. Maybe I'm trying to connect this a little too close. Maybe if I keep it like this area stays safe. So what we've basically done is just kind of like those puzzle games. You're shifting all of the vertices over by kind of shifting those polygons over, like with the bevel vertice. Okay, so now that it's away from that edge, hopefully in my brain, it will start to connect. Quad, 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 quad. Sounds almost like I'm saying crud. Quad, quad. And then what I'll do is I will connect it to right here. Then I'll take this and this, which is not attached to anything. Delete those. And then bevel this once. Merge and center. And then split this. And technically, that fixes it. Now I can connect it to the hand itself. From the hand to the arm, my bad. But first I need to reshape that. But I think I got rid of the problem points. So let me just reshuffle these things around. That was a lot of effort for basically nothing. I do realize that. Sometimes it's just a therapeutic thing of knowing that you're able to, beat it. Even if it wasn't the best solution, you got a chance to not let the puzzle break you. Cool restaurant I saw in a video. That was the little beep. General. Oh, the Lego dining area. I've heard about this. That's clever. So that's if I remember right, that's the menu. Yep. So then it goes into there and it detects the color, and that's what you've ordered. Oh, that's great. I like the conveyor belt. And there you got your brick, which is a brick's worth of food. Kind of actually not bad portions there. I mean, the person chose obviously the wrong option. They should have gone with a steak. But I like that. Actually, wait a minute. We got a different emote. Brick. There we go. Much better. Okay. I'm not terribly disappointed with that. It's not my favorite sort of design, but for this arm, for the hand, my bad. It's not terrible. Of course, I'm so out of whack for my topology techniques that it is something where I do realize that I could have done that much better. Right now I have to get that to fit back to this. And I'm going to snap it to the surface. Now we can go into that 4-panel view here. Pick one meat in 3 sides, and each has a specific brick. No matter how you put them together, it can read it. I like that. And it's probably definitely... I've seen how Lego bricks can get detected by machines, and it's actually a relatively clever process. So I like the fact that they're really leaning into that. Because I'm a big Lego fan. I've always been a big supporter of their products. Now, I don't use them a whole lot these days other than the 3D bricks that I have, but I still have great fondness for Lego and very much think that they are a very crucial part of what a child's toy set should include, because it helps them to understand some of the basics of the physical world in a way that, well, it's kind of hard to do with other sorts of toys. Oh yeah, there's way too many polygons of this last area here. Let's get rid of some of that. Let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of this. There, that's much cleaner. So we're not looking for the highest quality version of this, although I would love to do a high quality version. I just don't have the time to be able to do that. The fingertips are so clean. I've always had weird topology there. You know, I've usually had weird topology as well, and I kind of lucked out on this one. It's not super easy, and the ones I've struggled with are the bases of the fingers, as you saw me fighting with just earlier. So I definitely can say that that has been a bit of a problem for me this go around. Whereas in the past, it was the fingertips. That's one of the reasons why I didn't even want to do the hand to begin with. So I was like, well, that means I have to do fingertips. And lo and behold, it wasn't so bad. By the way, folks, if you're on a platform that you have the ability to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a sub, it'd be much appreciated. It's not something, again, that I talk about too terribly often, but if it is something that you are interested in contributing to, that would be much appreciated. Let's get a reference over here. That way we can see without having to keep hiding it. Right now, this area over here is going to be a little hard to see otherwise. let me double check something before we go on much further here. One of the ways that I've changed in the way that I do my modeling is, as you see with this arm, I made it in blocks in order to give me a better idea of the different muscle groups that I needed to incorporate, because it's kind of hard to model this stuff and think about what is underneath. I am not a sculptor of the traditional sense, and so thus trying to figure that stuff out has always been a little bit of a frustration for me. And so this helped out tremendously with trying to overcome that limitation by actually modeling out the general muscle shape and then able to work with it from there. Well, you can tell that I don't know if you all can hear it right now, but I'm actually dealing with quite a bit of allergies, and so my voice is has a little bit more, at least to my ears, which I can hear in here, because I have a little bit of feedback here. It definitely sounds like it's a bit deeper, or at least a little bit more reverb than normal, and so I can definitely tell that I need to take my allergy medicine before the night is out. Hopefully it works tomorrow, because I need to do some voiceover work. Isn't that weird? It's like, I hope the suffering continues so that way I can do some work tomorrow. Kind of funny how that happens. I think that the arm will probably be quite a lot easier to do, just because I've done many arms, I just haven't done many hands. And the hands have definitely been the bane of this project so far. But again, we needed the hands because this will be important for episode 2, which is been storyboarded for a long time. And I just needed the for the project to start working again, for me to even be able to open it up and be able to actually do it. But I really want to do the second one. The second one's a lot funnier, and actually has like a message behind it that's, a good message. Whereas this one is just like, don't take the bait. Whoop-de-doo. No one cares about that sort of a message. The other message will be, a lot more meaningful, even though it's a really short message. Or at least I think it's meaningful, but it'll be up for other people to decide if they find any sort of meaning with it. Not like it's going to be a deep philosophical Archimedes level of lesson, but there will still be something. I found it funny. You're saying they're saying a Buc-ee's is being built outside of Chicago. It's being built 90 minutes from Chicago in Wisconsin. They don't want to admit it's up there. It sounds... Wait a minute. They don't want to admit it's up there. It sounds... I think I might have crossed that border in my stream where I'm just not reading it very clearly. But anyway, it's 90 minutes from you, or from Chicago. That's a little far north for a Buc-ee's, isn't it? Don't they usually like peter out around Kentucky? I don't think I've ever been to a Buc-ee's. I think it might have started to gain popularity after I left the South. up here in Alaska, we have a store known as Three Bears, and Three Bears is a slightly different sort of store. It is one of the only stores where you can go and get your box of cereal, your dried canned goods, and your bear traps, all at the same location. It's because it is designed for Alaskan wilderness living. It's very much in the style of the old-fashioned general stores. And I think it's a very good idea that they had it, that they have it all across the state. It proves to be very helpful for a lot of folks and fits the Alaskan niche a lot better than some other places. And even though other places are still beneficial, it is very good for a wide variety of Alaskan communities. Like a 7-Eleven? Not quite. A bit over 2 hours is what Google Maps is saying at 3 a.m. Like what farm in Fleet is... What farm and Fleet is to the Midwest. Farm and Fleet. I don't think I've heard about that either. If that's like the Three Bears, though, then that would make sense because it's kind of like the modern version of a general store for our communities. I actually went to Three Bears just the other day when I was fishing, and we stopped by there in order to pick up ice, which is, kind of an important thing when you catch a fish, which, for those that missed it, it's a very, it's quite the photograph of course. Oh, that's horrifying. Anyway, I didn't realize how terrifying that photo was going to end up being until after it was taken. I was like, okay, I don't think I want that one. But now you all have been plagued with it. It's kind of weird to think. So I have a very different mental image of myself. And then when I see photos like that, I'm like, wow, I've changed over the years. I mean, granted, I was like making a face intentionally, but it was kind of funny to realize just how much I've changed over the years. All right, almost there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take these edge loops, not all of them, but a lot of them, and smooth them out. Let's just start with that one here, and edit. Relax. Relax. Okay, maybe not that one entirely. Let's just do this in pieces. Relax. And yes, relax. Calm down. Quiet your mind and your hand. You do photography, right? Is it the photographer thing of not liking your photos taken? It could be a little bit of it, but it's more like I can at least tolerate my photo in many ways, but there's like a professional business photo that I have that I hate. And I hate it with a deep passion. I do not want to get a new one because I hate it so much. And the reason why is not that I want a perfect photo. It's more like it just doesn't capture who I am. Hey, you guys know a lot better about who I am in many ways. You hear me ramble into the late hours of the night. You see me kind of struggle with a wide range of things. You see more than just the physical side. And the photo is very much just physical. It doesn't carry anything really special with it. It's just, it's like, you could say it's like the most trivial part of something that documents who you are. Your visuals will change drastically over time. Like I realized with myself in that silly photo. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that, well, things change and it doesn't reflect the person as much. And I've been judged for my photos before, and like I remember someone mentioning that, well, like let's take a Little Caesars. I know we made a Little Caesars come around here, but it was my look and my sound. Just a second, which my sound is not acting up. It was, come on. It was my look and my sound that caused me to miss out on working for Chick-fil-A, which pushed me towards Little Caesars. It was a look that ended up causing problems. It was the sound that caused problems. Static, yeah, indeed. Okay, stand by. I know how to fix this. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Hopefully that is now working. I basically have to reset the device, and there still is static. Apparently it builds up over time, and I don't know how to discharge it without turning it off. I do got an idea, but I need to get a tool to help me out with that. So judgmental. People being judgmental and realizing how a look colored someone's opinion of me very thoroughly. And I find myself doing the same sort of thing. There's some people that I find that I judge based upon looks. But I more want to judge people based upon their behavior, upon what they say, things like that. And part of it, kind of, I see in photos, is that whatever photos I take, like, if someone were to see, let's pull up this stupid image again. If someone were to see that, what is your first thought? It's like, kind of a crazy redneck. Which is, kind of funny because I actually have a little bit of you could say redneck in the blood. So it's actually quite fitting. But it is something where when I have a professional photo, and my professional photo, I hate more than that. Because the professional photo lacks some of the things that make me very distinctly who I am. And that one, even though it's funny and not necessarily real, it does represent a little bit of who I am in different ways. Oh, look at that. There's an Engon right here. How did I miss that one? I thought I got rid of that. Okay, I got another idea how to fix this one. Wrong one. So, we do this strategy from earlier. All right. So just like beforehand, we're shifting it around. And now we have to get it beyond this area over here. Oh, actually, did that fix it? Hey. Nope, it didn't. Of course it didn't, but it did get very close. Wait a second. Maybe I could do another loop. No, that wouldn't be beneficial. That wouldn't solve anything. Well, we've at least moved it over here. At which point, I wonder. Go around to right here. Goes in. Goes into right there. What if I was to try and shift it on over to this area? Interesting. Actually, this might have solved part of the problem that I had over here. So yes, I did make triangles again, but what I did was I got rid of that and traveled it all the way over here. So now I can try and use some of the tactics I used earlier to try and solve that. So yes, I made the problem again, but I did it in order to solve the one from over there. So what if we do this? So it goes around like that. This one needs to be connected like this. I like that strategy so much better than what I was doing earlier. Oh my goodness, that is a time saver. Did that solve all of the triangle problems? If so, that's going to become like my new favorite strategy. Which feels a lot more natural to me than some other styles. Suddenly feel like I definitely wasted time. But, you know, time's not wasted if you learn something new. And I definitely just learned something new. I might have known it once upon a time, but I can't remember. Okay, so now we're going to come into sculpt. And what we're going to do is we're going to just smooth it out a little bit. Let's turn on wireframe for this part. Actually, I think that might be it. Okay, we'll just smooth it out, and we'll come into here and use. There we go. Thumb area needs to be quite a bit larger. So what we're going to do is we're going to just drag it on over like this. Just to widen that area. And yes, it is going to be a little bit different than the mesh that we made beforehand, but at least this does fit a little bit more with what I was looking for. Okay, now we do our relaxing. We have now good loops. Relax. And yes, the last area here will probably be the thumb. The fingers here, the root of them, the knuckles. Why can't I speak tonight?
Well, there's an end gone right there. That one's an easy one to solve, though. There's not one over here. No, that's because I fixed the one earlier. I like that Relax is such a very easy tool to use. It's, you could say, relaxing. I know, pitiful. Now that thumb is too bulky right there, but that is good because I've spent plenty of time refining this, so now I can come back and do small things like that, or I can just start to balance it out. Good. Well, not very good. There's only one thing. One time there was truly very good, and that was when we were created and placed on this earth. This is just tolerable because this lacks the fine beauty and elegance of the first mankind that was made, and first man and woman that were made. This is just tolerable topology. Have you ever thought about that? Why in the world would two people that were created, now I'm thinking about that because of, designing a hand in 3D, but have you ever thought about why it is that Adam and Eve, who lived in perfection, threw it all away? That used to trouble me a lot. Like, why in the world would you do that? And it made me very angry. It still is, if I'm to be honest, it still angers me. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm starting to understand that really, just because you have everything doesn't mean that you're immune from wanton desire. And it's a very important thing to try and restrain yourself. I know we don't like to restrain ourselves in the modern age. we think that, oh, well, we deserve it or whatnot. But Adam and Eve, they had everything. And even they were like, we deserve more. We want more. Correction, Eve was like, I want more. And Adam was just being a wuss, looking the other way. It's like, oh, I don't know. I don't care. And so it's a real shame that happened. But at the same time, I remember hearing from a theologian once that it was going to happen eventually. The question was what would be the catalyst for it? The tree was placed there in order to serve as a form of temptation. But it wasn't temptation in the way that we would have thought, or what we think of these days. It was a test, and it was a test that was failed. But I remember hearing a theologian say that it was probably going to happen eventually, because there was still an understanding that God wanted us to have choice. And you can't have choice if you have only one option. Have you ever seen that with like a subscription? It says, choose your plan, and there's just one option. And then sometimes they'll show multiple options, but it's basically the same option. You know, like, I don't want any of these. But you're forced to because of like how society is, and you have to make a choice and sacrifice something. Well, if you have real choice, that means you have to even give people the ability to say, no, we don't want you. We don't want to do it. And so you were going to have somebody someday say that they did not want to live in perfection. What I view as a tragedy is that it was the first man and woman, both of them, that failed. It wasn't generations later. It was the first one. Had a little bit of static there. But anyway, it's something that I still find fascinating to think about. True perfection. No pain, no suffering. And they're like, nah, we don't want this. I mean, sure, they didn't know fully what they were getting themselves into, but they were warned. And in perfection, they would have understood what that meant. And then I get worried and think, would I have done any different? We can think that we wouldn't. Technically, when all of it's said and done, we have times in our life where we have made horrible decisions. Even with the full knowledge that we are making a bad decision. It doesn't change the fact that it happens. Well, we're probably at the end for the stream today because I'm starting to get more static. And I gotta find out what the problem is with this thing. Like I said, I think... Wait a minute. I think I know what is causing it, but it's a little hard to pin down. There's a lot of experiments that I've run. Nothing's quite worked. But I definitely need to get this thing looked at. Correction, I have to look at it because, I don't want to pay for someone else to try and fix it. Because I'm cheap. And besides, you learn when you struggle with stuff like that. That's an interesting path. Not really a fan of how that one loops around, but it's fine. So now, I believe, there's one more thing that has to be done here. That is to do this to each of these. So I got one more thing. One more question for you. Philosophical, theological question for you. What if you were to find out that everything was about to fall apart? I know we're a little late for this discussion point to be raised, but I recently heard someone talking about this. And I gotta say, it was not necessarily a very helpful thing to hear someone talking about. It was kind of with a little bit of sounded like it was said with a little bit of bitterness. And I gotta say, I was a little discouraged to hear it myself. But it was the realization that there are many people who are beginning to get really concerned about current events. Now, I'm not here to necessarily talk about the current events as whether it's good or bad. I think that sort of discussion would distract from what's actually going on, I believe. But how we approach difficult times or difficult challenges will change everything. We can struggle with things, no doubt about that. We can definitely struggle with things and, not be happy with how things turn out, but it's how we approach it, how we embrace the challenge. And we are not here to have an easy life. We are here to make a difference. And if we're not making a difference, it's kind of a life that starts to feel meaningless and empty. You're not going to be able to change the world necessarily. You can be able to change some things in this world, but that's not going to really it's not necessarily going to solve global problems. What you can only do in this life is try and make a difference in somebody's life. It doesn't matter whether or not things are falling apart. It doesn't matter if prices are out of control. What matters is how you yourself behave in that. And I think that many times many times we can become distracted with that, and it becomes overwhelming to the point of where it starts to psychologically damage us. And I don't say psychologically damage us like it's a medical condition. No, I think it's something deeper. I think it's something deep within our soul that realizes something is amiss. And many times we don't know how to even put it into words. But I raise this because I've seen some people in frustration think somehow they're going to be able to thwart the problems that are out there, to solve them. And from a Christian point of view, there is a point in global history, whether or not we're there yet is up for debate, but there's going to be a point in history where we're not going to be able to stop what is coming, nor necessarily should we. You're not going to be able to avoid some of the things that will happen in the end times. But it doesn't change the fact that we have to still do our best and help one another. World leaders are going to behave some way. Economies are going to behave some way. But you yourself will not be able to dictate it. The only thing you can dictate is how you behave in the midst of it, how you treat one another. And I heard someone when I was back in college who said, "Oh, if there's a problem, don't worry, it will just be resolved." And it's almost like they were suggesting it almost like it was going to be magical. It's like, no, that's not going to change things in this world. You're not going to be able to change it in that manner. But the thing is that there's some people in this world that actually do kind of think like that. They think that problems are just going to disappear. And problems, from everything that I have personally experienced, problems do not disappear. They just change. Sometimes they get worse. Sometimes they get easier. But the most important thing is making sure that you maintain a sense of dignity, a sense of morality, to seek truth in the midst of it. Because those hard times can crush you. But if you have found a firm foundation, you can be able to weather it. And I think that's an important thing to remind ourselves of, because there's many people in this world that are ready and willing to basically try and cause grief to people. And why am I kind of talking about this right now? Well, because there are AI companies. See now, here we're getting to kind of the crux of it. There are AI companies out there that want desperately to for you to think that there is nothing else, that there is going to be machines that take over, and that is it. There's no coming back from it. It's over. And I hate that sort of mentality, because it intentionally is trying to dishearten people. It's intentionally trying to break their spirit. And then I see our politicians contributing to that. And I think, you people are not realizing the damage that you're doing. Or maybe, dare I say, they do know, and they just don't care. But it troubles me so much, because we have an entire generation that is becoming disheartened. For those that have read it, I wrote a story that kind of goes over this concept a little bit. At least it touches on this part a little bit, and that is Pharaoh and the Smith. Now, you can't really read it right now. The website is glitching, and I apologize. That is my mistake. But I've been really pondering this, because there are so many people in this world that are in various stages of being disheartened. And then I hear our companies mocking and saying, yep, no, it's over. Don't even try. You don't matter. It's like, no, I'm not going to tolerate this sort of behavior. All of us matter. But companies don't have that level of consideration. They have profits in mind. And I really, over the last couple of years, have come to hate when companies try and hide behind, well, it's just for profits. Oh, what do you want us to do? Go bankrupt? Yes. Yes, because if you sacrifice morality to make a profit, you are being run by evil. And I don't say that lightly. If you want to try and break a people, that's what the devil wants us to do. He wants mankind to be broken. He wants them to become hopeless, to think that somehow it's over. So when I see people, companies, leaning into this stuff and say, yep, absolutely, it's over. Hey, might as well make profit while you can. No, that is a level of evil that I will never tolerate. And yet, somehow, those people, those companies, still make a massive amount of money because our government is encouraging it. Our government doesn't even know, I think, the damage that they're doing. They just think of it as an industrial revolution, and they don't realize who it's hurting and how bad the hurt is going to come. They just see profits go up. And during hard times, whether it's a lack of food, whether it is invasion, whether it's war, disease, natural disasters, all these things are basically designed to try and dishearten us, to cripple us. And I'm seeing companies willingly getting involved with that, saying, yeah, let's dishearten the people. Let's break them. You know, I never liked those stupid commoners. And I heard a speech given about this. It was by somebody who was commenting about how we need to put those commoners in their place. And I remember hearing that and thinking, they have no remorse. They have no consideration for the suffering of another. That is unacceptable in so many ways. But we do have a lot of people who grew up in this sort of society. And then when they got money and they got power, they decided they wanted to do what was wrong. In many ways, you could say that is kind of what demons want us to do. They want us to be broken. They want us to feel discouraged and incapable of living out as really God intended us to be. And I don't know how many of us truly understand the level of evil that has been happening as a result of this stuff. But I do know this, that despite our cultures becoming aware that evil exists in ways that none of us ever expected, the one thing we can definitely be certain of is that it has woken up a lot of people. It has made a lot of people start to reflect and start to ask themselves the questions about what sort of person do they want to be? can definitely tell you there's a lot of people in this world, though, that they don't care. I've met a couple of them. And I would take a commoner over all the commoners over one of these sick, evil people at the top. I don't want a revolution or anything like that. The only revolution I want is the one of the heart. Because if we lean in to the same sort of behavior that people of old have done, we end up repeating the cycle of chaos and violence. What we need is to start to realize that change happens first at our own homes, in our own minds, in our own souls. That's where it all begins. It doesn't start in a ballot box. It doesn't start in our economy. It doesn't start anywhere else but with you and me. And in recent years, I've really come to realize just how much this is in play. And I gotta say, I spent a lot of years thinking that somehow I could change things by how I was, how I was voting. And I never stopped to ask myself the question, am I willing to do the really hard thing, which is to change myself? It's easy to try and say, I want someone else to clean up this mess. But it's really hard to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to take on the responsibility to help fix things. To take on the responsibility and say, I'm not going to let someone else carry my burden. I recently heard that a lot of people apparently try to scam in order to make wealth and money. And apparently a lot of common folk do as well, which is in some ways understandable, but in many ways it just goes to show that we many times start to think that, well, the only way to change things is to just embrace the chaos. And I don't think that that's going to help anything. I think it's just going to make things 10 times worse for all of us. I hear there's some channels out there that will mention the phrase basically fight like hell. And while I can understand the reason why people would want to say that, I have to wonder if someone's willing to fight, quote, fight like hell for things that they value, how much are they willing to fight like hell to protect themselves from going to hell? That's something I don't think that many people in this world are willing to even acknowledge, because it starts to raise a lot of very scary questions. And I don't say it necessarily to try and make people, a healthy fear is always helpful, but it's not that I'm trying to make people feel like there is no hope. I want people to realize that there is hope, but that the hope is not in the the things of this material world that our companies or our governments want us to think. It's not the material that we should be fighting for. It's the spiritual, it's the values that we have been bestowed with. You can be able to live through very hard times and still come out and on the other side happy and prosperous. Because the most beneficial things in this world are not material. It's one of the reasons why I'm such a very big advocate of trying to encourage families. Now, it is something where it is immensely troubling just how much our society has been against family formation. And then the moment that their profits start to look bad, they're like, oh, we now need family formation. Family formation is not about making profits. It's not about money at all. I think that angers a lot of people in the elites, among the elites, because they don't understand what family even represents. And it's kind of funny that there's so many stories about elites that suddenly come to terms with like, oh, this is what family is. This is what values are. Just think about A Christmas Carol, for example. It's about a rich man suddenly realizing his mistakes and coming to terms with it and becoming better. But there's a lot of elites. They don't know. They don't understand. They don't care. To them, it is all about profits. Family is profits. And so they look at the troubles of this world and think, well, we just need a financial solution. We just need to stop people from thinking about how bad things are and just focus on how, well off financially they can be, without thinking about that the most joy is not going to come from anything material. That's why when it comes to trying to fight for things, the most important thing you can fight for is things that you hold dear, which is not things that are material. It's things that are immaterial, things that are of relational or spiritual value. Those are the things that matter. There's a YouTube channel that Rumble channel that I watch. You can figure it out pretty easily. But it's one of those channels that mentions about current events and then mentions about the fight like hell sort of thing. And I remember hearing somebody asking them the question about, what do you even mean by that? You're like, well, you have to fight like hell for your values. And someone pointed out, are you doing that? And in the end, they weren't. See, there's a level of fear that starts to come in when you realize what that actually means. And it makes you start to second guess yourself. And you think, well, of course I want to do it, but not if I'm going to be the only person to do it. Right. Real brave. real wise. But see, when it's material, we start to think, well, I don't want to lose anything. And it starts to make us realize that, well, we don't really want to fight like hell. We want to fight, within the comfort of what we currently have. But that's why it's like, well, that's because you're fighting for something material. You're not fighting for something that truly matters. Your family does matter. Your faith does matter. But if you're not willing to fight for that, in a spiritual realm, which is the most dangerous one to fight, you're not going to be able to withstand the physical. And that may sound a little weird for somebody who doesn't have a faith background. I do realize that. But believe me, when it starts to arise, you recognize it pretty quickly that this stuff is very prevalent. There's nothing more. Well, it's amazing how difficult and overwhelming it can be when you are facing off against the most dangerous foe of all, the devil. Because the devil doesn't come at you with sword. Not usually. He comes at you with all the vices in the world and just basically opens up a treasure chest and says, look at all that. Correction. Got the devil here. He looks at you and says,
Look at all of this. You can have all these treasures, every last thing you ever wanted. Money, power, fame, everything.
and then suddenly we're left with this realization that it's not the temptations we're being dealt with is not holding our ground in a physical way. It's holding our ground in a moral way that like none other. And I've seen how easy it is to cave to that. I myself have struggled with that. And realizing, the devil is incredibly convincing of that sort of stuff. But you don't hear the people that want to save things mentioning about that. And I'm not trying to say somehow that they're doing a terrible thing. No, I think it's important to be able to fight for your values. But we're not going to be able to stand for the values that we hold if we're not willing to hold to the most important values, which revolve around the soul. I think this is just about done here. It's mostly just small little tweaks here and there to refine the shape. I hope and pray, though, that our society starts to realize this, because it doesn't have to be a fight like they want, like many people want it to be. Because the most important fight truly is just realizing that our enemy, that the enemy plays dirty and doesn't fight us in the way that we're wanting him to fight. How many of us, if given the option, would rather have an actual fight than have to deal with something in a spiritual fight? If we spend all of our time in the physical world, we start to realize that our muscles that are for the spiritual fights are not really there. Yeah, sure, they can be there, but it's more likely that they have atrophied, and we have focused so much on the physical form, which doesn't really save us. Let's be perfectly plain with that. The greatest
the greatest spiritual leaders of the past were not these muscle men. Now, there's nothing wrong with physical training. Paul praised physical training. But it's not that which will get you saved. It is the spiritual muscles that you need. And if you have neglected that, the devil exploits that. And it may sound a little weird. How can the devil actually have that sort of power? Well, one of the ways that he can do that is something as simple as, let me put it this way. Let's say that you have done all the physical training. You're like, I'm ready to deal with every last villain that comes my way. And then in walks a lawyer who looks at you and says, you're being sued for $5 million. Are your muscles going to help you in that situation? Not really. I mean, we can think that it will, but in the end, what you've just encountered is something that is a lot more difficult to try and overcome, which is the realization that there are things in this world that are legal in its foundation. And muscles cannot save you from that. Fighting like hell will not save you from that. If anything, it's just going to get, you in trouble with the law. The devil comes along. He sees you with all your strength. And I'm thinking about this because I've been trying to do a lot more physical training. And I'm realizing that no matter how much muscle I build, it doesn't solve the most important problems in life. Because the devil looks at you training and it's like,
doesn't matter to me.
and then the devil comes along with a giant suitcase and says, comes up to you and says something along the lines of a temptation, some sort of temptation. Let's just say, for the sake of it, the devil comes up with with that suitcase and opens it up, and there's a bunch of donuts. Now, if someone who has physical concerns would look at it and say, "Oh, I'm not going to be eating those donuts. That temptation doesn't work on me." So the devil finds the things that are weaknesses and doubles down on that. For a lot of people these days, it seems to be one of a few things. It tends to be either sexual, financial, or vengeance. All of those things end up being destructive. But the devil doesn't come at us in the areas that we're strong. He comes at us in the areas in which we are weak, that we're incapable. It's kind of like if somebody focuses all on the legal stuff, and then he's probably going to bring somebody who's, super strong to end up causing you grief. It's any number of things, but the strength that you have needs to be for the physical and the spiritual equally.
let's look at this. Object-wise. Let's change the material. Well. It's not bad. I mean, it's not perfect, but, it's so much better than some of the stuff that I've done in the past. And that part I am grateful for. It could have been an absolute nightmare, and it ended up taking longer than I expected, but it at least turned out fine. So we're going to be calling it there for this evening. I'm going to end up going to bed here shortly. There's just one on the Twitch side, so we're not going to do any raids. Again, if you found anything of merit, consider giving a like. And if you're not a fan of it, that's fine. Give a dislike. But at least it tells me that you were most likely flesh and blood. And one thing to also remember as we start to wrap up. Beware getting disheartened in these times. Because, like normal, it seems a lot of people are starting to get psyched up. And I think it might be strategic from politicians to try and get people freaking out. And I think the last thing we need is people to freak out and more people to be reflective. Panic does not save things. Peace and calm minds are going to find it a lot easier to navigate the times, regardless of what comes along. So in that sense, I will leave you with that thought. We should be back tomorrow. We might do a little bit of Fortnite tomorrow. Let me see how that is probably going to shake up. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to call it there. Have a very pleasant evening and morning, everybody. Just a reminder, no matter what happens in this life, no matter what happens to those around you or to yourself, be civil to one another, because we definitely need that in this day and age, especially when people are disheartened and angry or frustrated. Maintain a sense of dignity in all things. And try and spread that civility with somebody today. There's someone that I need to spread some civility to that I've been meaning to for a while. And I need to actually do that. So that's kind of a reminder to me as well that I need to do that. Until next time, folks, have a very pleasant evening.